Oh, here it goes.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the 2Smart Dummies podcast. As always, it's your boy Q.
And it's your boy Big Facts.
Baby, what's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Friday hit and shit. I guess the draft hit and the NBA went crazy.
Yeah, you know, we got a nice little Thanksgiving edition of 2Smart Dummies here for you guys. Of course, last time we talked to you, we were the day of the draft, so we've gotten the draft out of the way. A lot of interesting picks. Beatty, you kind of was like, you know, I've been up banging the drum that there's a lot of smart GMs in the league. Boy, I keep looking at this draft, and either it's some grand plans out there that my little brain can't see, or it's still a lot of bad GMs in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit. I don't know what the fuck Detroit's doing. But yeah, man. Go ahead.
Detroit. We'll get to Detroit because I actually am not as low on Detroit as I thought I was. But go ahead.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I just don't understand a lot of draft picks. I mean, most of it went the way I thought. I mean, Anthony Edwards going number one. I feel like you had to take him. Malik Beasley signing for that $60 million is not going to help him, but that gives him time. I mean, when you get the number one pick, I think you got to take the most talented person on board, and that's either going to be Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball. Whatever you feel, whoever's the best. I like the fact they went with Edwards. You go Wiseman number two, kind of like we thought, another value pick. And then LaMelo Ball to the Hornets, which I think is the best place for him. After that, the Bulls, I mean, I understand them taking Patrick Williams. I understand what they're saying, he's raw. But my point is that when you're number 4 and you're up there, like, you don't know anything.
And you've been number 4?
Yeah, you don't know anything
the past few years
that Patrick Williams does. Like, Patrick Williams does not come in and help you immediately. Like, he's raw, and you can, but you don't know. You could just be making another Otto Porter. You know what I mean? I don't know what he is.
I don't know how they didn't take someone like Tyrese Halliburton, even like a Killian Hayes, like a point guard to move Kobe White off the ball. Like, that made sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, they could have. There's so many other places they could have went with that. Like, even taking a Denny. If you take Denny right there, I can understand that too. But I don't understand that Patrick Williams. The Cavs, I mean, I understand taking Isaac Okoro. I understand, but Isaac Okoro, man, he feel like a second round pick to me. I mean, I understand they talking about leadership and all this other shit, but he's not. What is his ceiling? His ceiling is just what, a good 3-and-D player? Trevor Ariza maybe?
Well, and I feel like that was what this draft was, just a bunch of 3-and-D dudes. But before we get too far, I do want to say, so before the draft started, we found out that Klay Thompson blew his Achilles.
Yeah.
So, you know, that pretty much kills any move that Golden State probably was going to make if they had planned on trading that pick. So they take James Wiseman. You know, you and I both like that pick. They don't really need him to be anything crazy, and you can kind of just let him develop. But you and I kind of disagree on where the Warriors at, man. I think their championship window is closed with Klay, you know, blowing out his Achilles. I mean, when you're talking about your best players are in their 30s, coming off injuries, and it's been, you know, at this point 2 years since they've made the finals. Klay probably is not going to be back until next year. So that's 2 years removed from the finals. I'm not saying they can't be a playoff team because I believe in their organization, but I don't see a window. They're not where, you know, we're immediately moving them back up to where they're contenders. I don't think that they're contenders. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
No, I definitely disagree. I mean, now with that being said, I do think Klay was the glue that held everything together. I mean, Klay was the clutch shot maker. He was the defensive person that they put on the ball. He was the one that consistently hit shots when they were going through their little lulls. He's the spark to get them going. I mean, there's a lot of great things that Klay brought to the table. But I can't immediately say that the dynasty ends because Klay got hurt. You know what I mean? They played games without Klay. And I think they can win without Klay. They showed last year that they also do a good job at developing talent. I mean, they were losing games last year, but you saw how Steve Kerr got a chance to coach. And you saw players like Kyle Bowman, who just got cut and actually went to the Clippers, which I think that might end up being big. Eric Pascal. You see these players develop, even players that before weren't good. that turned out to be look talented. What's the kid that was drafted by Phoenix? Shit, I just lost his name. The center, Chris. Is Chris?
Oh, Marquise Chris.
Yeah, Marquise Chris. You see them? They coached him up where he looked like a starting center for a lot of the years. So I mean, everybody's gonna doubt him.
About that.
Last year, Chris was getting a double-double. Chris was balling last year. So I mean, I don't know what you would expect from a player to say he doesn't look like an NBA player when he's in the system getting a double. All you can ask for him to be productive.
Oh, I don't mean he's not an NBA player. I just the track record of Golden State players leaving Golden State is not good. There's not been a single one that you've been like, oh shit, man, Golden State just been hiding this dude. I guess you could say none, maybe, but
he didn't leave. I'm pretty sure he resigned back.
No, that.
I know what you're saying.
But you know what I mean? I have a hard time seeing
but you can say
how
that,
good someone actually is outside that system.
Yeah, but it don't matter as long as you're in the system. You can say that about Spurs, too. When people leave the Spurs system, how good are they outside of the Spurs? You know what I mean?
Kawhi was great outside of it.
Yeah, but Kawhi, great. Yeah, I mean, Kawhi is the one example. Now go other 92 players. Steven Jackson, maybe?
I mean, they have guys that can contribute. I mean, the dudes that leave the Warriors. And here's my other problem, with the Warriors. I don't know what you've seen out of Draymond the last couple of years, but it has not been the Draymond of 20. So here's the thing, man. With the NBA, you get peaks, right? You get windows, and windows close. And you think about for us to be expecting in 2021 for the Warriors to still be elite like they were in 2014, 2015, 2016. I mean, it's just unrealistic. You know what I mean?
Well, that's two different arguments.
Because Draymond has taken a step back.
Yeah, but
Steph,
that's two different arguments. You're arguing will they be the same team they were in 2014? That's not even realistic.
Oh, of course not.
You have to change. You have to adapt, and I think that's what.
But who's on their team right now that is like, oh yeah, that's a championship team? Steph, yes, obviously, but other than going down, I don't think Draymond is that dude. Not anymore. I mean, Kelly Oubre is a nice player, but other than that, outside of Steph, there's nothing on their roster where I'm like, yeah, I could see them making a run.
But I mean, that's easy for to say because you hadn't seen it. If you just doubt it, you can doubt it. But I mean, if you're talking about the production that these players have had together, Steph was hurt, but Steph could have came back and played. It's just no need to risk that.
No doubt.
Steph's saying Steph was hurt. He hurt his hand. He could have came back and played. So I'm not gonna
play 8 games and he had a broken hand. I mean, we know they was.
You know what I mean? So I'm not even discounting. If anything, he's gonna come back fresher. He had some knee injuries that he kept playing through. Draymond, I don't think Draymond is down. I think what you saw was Draymond take a back seat. I saw the same thing happen with Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh come with LeBron. Everybody's saying, oh, Chris Bosh ain't nothing. I mean, well, some players take a back seat in order for another player to thrive. And he took off the ball so KD could play. And now he has the ball in his hands. And now more than ever without Clay. So now you get the ball up. I think Andrew Wiggins is going to be better in that system. He actually looked well in that system last year. I think Andrew Wiggins is going to be better in that system. I love Kelly Oubre in that system. If you saw the energy that he brought with Phoenix, that's the type of fire and spark plug they need. What he don't bring with shooting, he can bring with slashing. And that's kind of what I'm saying. We're used to Golden State with the 3-point shooting. I don't think that's the Golden State that you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of slashing, a lot of more using their big men because that's what they have. Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre, although they can both hit threes, it's more about them slashing, getting to the rim, using their athleticism. If they can get
go
ahead.
That said, which I understand, that all sounds good, but they ain't fucking with the Clippers. They ain't fucking with the Lakers. They probably not beating the Nuggets. I mean, but I don't know what to make of Houston yet.
That's just you.
Dallas.
That's just you saying it. I mean, you believe that, but you cannot actually say.
But they don't match up. Who do they match up well with? I mean, you even look at Portland. Portland, and I think too much has been made of what they've done in this offseason. But I even think of Portland with Nurkic. Did they bring Whiteside back, or is he still?
He's out.
Out there
they got Zach Collins, Nurkic.
Yeah. And with Covington coming in, I like Portland. I like too many situations more than Golden State. If you're trying to convince, not you, I'm just saying, if Golden State is going to convince me that Kelly Oubre, Marquise Chris, Draymond Green, Wiggins, and Steph is, a playoff team, I don't know about that. I legitimately can't. Who are they better than?
I mean, that's just for you to say on paper. The game is played. If you're looking on paper, right. The Clippers should have won the championship. It's not about what's on paper. What I know from them, is I'm pretty sure Steve Kerr can coach. I know that Steph is Steph, and Steph was a large part of that dynasty to begin with. And they have a championship mentality. Only other team that you just named out of that whole group that has a championship mentality is the LA Lakers. Everybody else is pretty much weak mentally. Like, I've seen these players on Golden State win even when they've been down, even when they've been injured, even when it looked dire. Like, I've seen them.
No, you've seen 2 of those players do that.
How many do you need?
That don't make up for the other 13 niggas on the team.
Shit, LeBron does it all the time. I mean, you only take one.
Come on, man. But you talking about the greatest player of all time versus.
All I know is they played against the greatest player of all time. So the 2 players that you talked about was on that team is 2 of the 3 players that were able to beat him. That's significant because we've seen LeBron break teams. We've seen LeBron do that, and these were 2 players that were able to go up against LeBron and face him twice. Even the one time, even when he won, it took it to a game 7. It came down to a Kyrie Irving 3-point shot. So it's not like you're just talking about anybody in the NBA. You know what I mean? Even the Kawhi taking the Raptors went against the Warriors when they were totally broken down. You know what I mean? Now Kawhi's in a situation where now he needs to prove himself. Was that a fluke? You know what I mean? Because what he did in the playoffs and losing to Denver and letting them come back, that should be made more of a deal. And I hadn't heard as much as you would have heard about that if it was LeBron or somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think the situations are different, right? And we'll get back to the draft in a second. Like, when I think of what Kawhi was asked to do in LA is much different than what he was asked to do in Toronto or even in San Antonio. You look at what made him successful.
He was asked to do what we thought he did in Toronto, which is be a leader.
No, he was asked. It wasn't even that, for at least for me. Like, he was asked to be LeBron James or Luka Doncic or a dude that's basically has the ball in his hand, 90% of the time. That's not his game. Like, you look at, he's had Tony Parker to handle the ball in San Antonio. He had Kyle Lowry. You know what I mean? Like, he needs a dynamic guard that he has not had. Patrick Beverley, dog, great defender, but is a 0 on offense half the time. Like, and of course you can't start Lou Williams. He ain't built like that. So if the thing that has confused me about the Clippers is they haven't addressed that yet. Like, Kawhi isn't a Luka Doncic type. Like, Kawhi's not a triple-double, triple-threat type. Kawhi is there to get buckets, play defense, and put people in positions to like, he's not going to get you 10 assists a game. He's going to get you 4. But he's going to get you 30 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, whatever the case may be. But if you're asking him to be the general of your offense, that's just not his game. He wasn't that in Toronto.
I totally agree with you. I definitely think they need a point guard. They were talking about getting Rondo, but they couldn't afford Rondo. But that's why I said I thought Kai Bowman. That was going to be later when I said I thought Kai Bowman might actually work for them, because Kai Bowman is probably the only person on the team that can handle the ball and distribute, kind of like a Monty Morris.
Yep.
And he's the only person on that roster that I can see doing that, because that's not Patrick Beverley. That's not Lou Williams. They don't have a guard that can do that. So having Kai Bowman, someone that played for Golden State and we saw what he does with the ball. Like, he can distribute and be a point guard, and that's what they need. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just have more faith in that. Like, that team doesn't look bad to me. I know that people are expecting one, but I have faith that I've seen them mold the team and change. If they can get anything from Wiseman, which I believe they can, because what they've been playing with at the center position for the past 6 years is nothing like what they have with Wiseman. And it
tried to convince us that Kayvon Looney was that dude. Jordan Bell.
And like,
all been trash.
Like I said, they make Marquise Chris look like a player. So you telling me they can't make Wiseman look like a player? And all he has to do is literally run the court, dunk the ball, and protect the rim.
Now, to be clear, I like the future of Golden State. I'm not saying that they're like going to be back to what they was. You know what I mean? Like, that they're going to the basement. I think their championship window is closed. Like, I think that as Oubre develops, I basically what I think, they're going to have to rebuild this team in a different way, right? Like you said, they're not going to be there. If you're expecting but the last time we saw them, we can't help but expect a championship level team after 7 years. But I just don't see it, man. Like, unless they, like, for me, if they can figure out a way to develop Wiseman and he comes along, him and Oubre, and now Clay and Steph, I don't see the long term for Draymond. But Clay and Steph are complementary pieces as they go into a different age in their career, because we're talking about 30-year-old dudes now, or early 30 dudes now. Like, that window is short, man. It's short, and I don't think that this is a contending team this year. Probably not next year, but I still think the future in Golden State is bright.
See, our biggest disagreement is on Draymond. And, like, your opinion of this team is not going to change until you see a different version of Draymond. And as long as you feel that way about Draymond, there's no way you can look at that roster and feel like it can compete. I don't feel that way about Draymond. I literally think Draymond took a step back because that's what he is. He's an ultimate team player. He took a step back to give KD the room that he needed to work. I think last year, if they were healthy, you would have saw a different version of Draymond. But the fact is, Draymond's not a scorer. Like, Draymond is more of like a jokey, a point guard on the floor. So if you put him out there with a bunch of bums, that's the Draymond you're going to get last year because he doesn't have people that can score with him. You know what I mean? He's not that dude. He's not the dude to go score the ball. He can score as secondary attention, but he's the one that keeps the flow of the offense, which I think is going to be big this year with so many slashers like Oubre and Wiggins. But, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I definitely – it's not a sure thing. Either way, it's not a sure thing that they're not a contender. It's not a sure thing that they are a contender. But that's the beauty is you want to see what they have, what Steve Kerr can do with it, and this is where you earn your money as a coach. Eric Spoelstra, he had LeBron, he had the big three. He lose them. He has to rebuild, retool, and fix it. Now he brought back another iteration of that team. Spurs did it a few times. You have to do that.
And if you're Golden State, again, here's why I think the future is bright. Even if this year doesn't, if let's say I'm right, let's say they're not contenders and they figure that out quick. You got your pick next year. You got Minnesota's pick next year. Like, Golden State is in a great position. Yeah. Like, and if they can get and with 2 deep drafts coming up, that's not a team I worry about. Like, I think this iteration of the Golden State Warriors that we know that championship window is closed. But yeah, like you said, we'll see. Let's go to Charlotte, man. Of course, they take LaMelo Ball, which I actually like. I think that's a perfect landing spot for him. It's kind of out of the spotlight. I actually think I don't like the Gordon Hayward move. I understand the Gordon Hayward move. I understand it. It makes sense. And the agent fucking finessed them. They're like, the only way this motherfucker is coming here is if you give us every cent guaranteed. And they did. And they had to overpay because you're Charlotte. Here is where I find Charlotte very interesting. Very interesting. They have enough young pieces. You have to hope that PJ Washington makes the next step, that Devontae Graham can continue to improve. You add LaMelo to that mix. You add a veteran like Gordon Hayward to that mix. Here's where it gets interesting. Lonzo Ball is a free agent next year. And I listened to some of what LeVar has been saying lately. That motherfucker is basically saying we are going to Charlotte, and I know he keeps saying Jello, but fuck Jello.
Not lately. Not lately. He's been saying this like a year before Lonzo even got in the draft. He's been saying for years. But Charlotte now, so he was just on Shannon Sharp's podcast this past week. He was like, no, Lonzo's a free agent next year. Both of my boys, all 3 of my boys are gonna play for the GOAT. So that's the mentality. Charlotte's a team to watch. Charlotte is a team to watch because I think that, and you also look at what New Orleans did in drafting Kira Lewis as a point guard now. So we're already on the fence about whether or not Lonzo is what he is as a player. Like, he's never going to live up to that number 2 draft pick most likely, but I think you and I both agree Lonzo's a player that every team should want to have. But all I'm saying is Charlotte's a team to watch out for in the future. They have some talent. I like bringing in Gordon Hayward to kind of be that veteran presence for them. And say what you want, Gordon Hayward's still a good player when he's healthy. And if he can get his mind right past these injuries, and it seemed like Boston's just kind of a snake bit situation from the jump. But when he was healthy before he broke his hand, let's not forget, he was putting up 30, 40, creating. Gordon Hayward is a really good player. It wouldn't shock me if Charlotte ends up as an 8th seed. Yeah, I disagree wholeheartedly. I hate everything. The only thing I don't hate about what they did was going to get LaMelo Ball just because I believe that he's a franchise piece, and that's a perfect place for him. Other than that, their offseason has been trash. I mean, you're still going out there with Bisbank Biyombo and Cody Zeller as your center. You're putting a lot of pressure on PJ Washington. Miles Bridges looked better last year, but what is his ceiling? I don't like anything that they've done, and if even with getting Lonzo, like I think that would be a crazy move for them to do too, because I don't even know like what you would have to pay Lonzo. Why would you? You know what I mean? Like you got a cheap contract on Devontae Graham right now. You got Terry Rozier, probably one of the best value contracts that you're gonna get. Even though I think he should be coming off the bench as just a fire scorer, like a bench scorer, because that's what he is. But I don't like this team. The signing of Gordon Hayward has nothing to do with Gordon Hayward. It's just really about what does he do for your team. Like I don't see any way that Gordon Hayward makes this team better. It looks a lot like what they did with Nick Batum. They pretty much did the exact same thing with Nick Batum like 4 years ago.
Yeah, but Gordon Hayward's better than Nick Batum.
I don't know that. I mean, who's saying that?
Oh, shit, I do. Come on now, Nick Batum.
Bro,
Let's not be crazy.
When he signed Nick Batum to that $100 million contract, Nick Batum was the hottest free agent on the market. He was coming from being...
No, he wasn't. Nick Batum was trash. Like, we all knew Nick Batum coming out of Portland was trash.
He cannot be trash if he got
$100
million. He wasn't only... They weren't.
It's a lot of niggas that get $100 million contracts that's trash in the NBA. A lot of them, him included.
That's hindsight talking. Nick Batum was not trash when they signed him. Nick Batum was a 6'9".
He wasn't $100 million good when they signed him.
They were not the only person that was after Nick Batum. Nick Batum was a 6'9" point guard who could knock down threes and can defend all positions as a team player. Like he had been on a run with Portland. He was a hot sought after when he left from Minnesota, I think, and then he went to Portland or something like that. Minnesota wanted him to Portland. Like he was good with those teams. Like they thought he was a young up-and-coming player. Now I do agree that Gordon Hayward is better when he was healthy. Now where Gordon Hayward is right now, Gordon Hayward he's coming off an injury, but not the major injury because he got injured like 3 times during the season. So you literally have an injury-prone player that you're paying $120 million to for 4 years, and even if he's at his best, even if he's Utah Gordon Hayward, he doesn't really help you with that team you have. Even with Gordon Hayward being Utah, that team, they don't have a center. All the places around him is inconsistent. Even Devontae Graham, who people like, he's an inconsistent shooter. You add LaMelo Ball, who's not going to be an immediate impact. Like they'll be fun to watch. They're not going to compete.
Yeah, but what are you expecting out of Charlotte? You know what I mean? Like what?
That's my point, though.
There's no.
I don't expect anything, but that's why I don't expect them to go spend $120 million on a Gordon Hayward.
So, but here's the thing: like when you look at Charlotte, you look at Detroit, like you look at Atlanta. Like Atlanta paying Rondo made no fucking sense to me. Like I understand, especially since they got bought. Like I don't understand that, but like. The thing for me is if you're Charlotte, if you're Orlando, if you're Detroit, you are kind of laying the foundation for down the road. They don't give a fuck about Gordon Hayward. They don't give one fuck about Gordon Hayward. The fact that he's going to come in there and build this veteran presence around all these young dudes, and they're actually going to start to build a nucleus, because no matter LaMelo Ball could come in tomorrow and be as good as LeBron James and he ain't going to be shit. Like Charlotte is still going to be that bad. But to come in, teach these boys how to win, teach them how to be professionals, teach them how to work, I think that's invaluable, Lonzo aside. I think if you can bring in Lonzo in the future, keep drafting, continue to build, you're going to be fine. None of these assets are guaranteed to work out, but they've all shown flashes, whether it be Miles Bridges, whether it be they've drafted pretty well.
Well, you don't bring in $120 million. This has got to be a bias that you like Gordon Hayward. Like I've heard you be against this type of signing before. This is one of those bad organization type signing. And I'm not even saying like I liked everything they were doing. If they would have just drafted LaMelo Ball and got like, I don't even know, somebody else in free agency or traded for somebody, that's fine. You don't go overpay Gordon Hayward like he's the contract that they gave Gordon Hayward was like he's the piece they needed to compete. And he's not.
I agree.
And that's the
problem. They overpaid him.
That's the problem that I have with it. Not about Gordon Hayward, because I think Gordon Hayward's going to be productive. I understand. But that's not the piece that Charlotte needed. If anything, Charlotte needs to be doing what OKC is doing, what New Orleans is doing. Take that young core that they have, give them as much playing time as possible, and then try to get picks. I would have been out there trying to shop Terry Rozier to whoever to get a future first or something like that.
But you don't think Gordon Hayward is a tradable asset, especially if he has a good year? Like I
don't think he is, because I don't trust that he's going to be healthy. Even last year, he was not healthy. In the bubble, he took 4 months off, came back, and then like messed up his ankle. Like at this point in time, he's injury prone, and it's not even about the broken leg. During the season, he got hurt with another minor injury, and these injuries are keeping him out 6 to 8 weeks. Like, he's fragile.
But that stuff, listen, like you and I both know, it's the NBA, right? That it's a 4-year guaranteed contract. By the time, let's say you're Charlotte and shit just works out perfectly, right? Like, we're on the verge. That's not going to be this year, next year. By year 3, and we're looking at this Gordon Hayward contract like, man, that fucking sucks. At that point, it's a 4-year guaranteed deal. It's becoming an expiring. It's a valuable contract at that point. And maybe, just like I'll get to Detroit, maybe by that time you're ready to compete because you've continued to draft. You have, maybe you get a win in free agency. Maybe you see that the culture has kind of changed a little bit. Like, again, you and I think we're saying the same thing. I think they massively overpaid for Gordon Hayward, but it's not about that. Because like you and I both said, we don't give a fuck about Gordon Hayward. He doesn't move the needle one way or another. He ain't going to help them win. He ain't going to help them lose, but he's going to help develop those players, which I think is invaluable.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I don't know that he does a lot with helping those players develop.
I mean, if you listen to what they said out of Boston, like listen to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they said that he was even though he was not used to being the third, fourth banana. They said that Jaylen Brown specifically said that Gordon Hayward was instrumental in his development. That's just the type of dude that he is, according to reports. They said the same thing in Utah. Who knows? By all accounts, Gordon Hayward is a great player, great team player. Like, everything about him is good. And if that is true, I think it's a win for Charlotte. What the fuck else are you going to do with that money? No one else is coming.
I don't know that. I'd rather keep the cap. Like, I don't want to lock down my cap for that. Like, you could do different things, and then we all know that 2021 class next year, like, I would have brought in Gallinari. Like, instead of paying $421, like, if it doesn't matter, you just bringing in somebody, bring in Gallinari. Gallinari got
no,
a
but you're not just bringing in
contract,
someone.
And the last year
that's
was
not the same thing. Again, Charlotte isn't about that. They're trying to reestablish themselves, rebuild the culture. They're not winning a fucking thing anyway. Like,
I know
it is about.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. You're just telling me that
don't help them do that.
I don't know that Gordon Hayward does. Like, I can read all that. I don't know that Gordon Hayward does that. Like, I don't. The difference is just like with the Draymond Green. I don't believe that Gordon Hayward is going to do that for them. Like, I don't believe that that's what Gordon Hayward is. Like, Gordon Hayward ain't never won shit. Like, he's not bringing in a championship type player that can come in. Like, he didn't help Celtics get over the Miami Heat. Like, I just don't trust Gordon Hayward like that. So if it's someone that's proven, that I can be like, oh, it's not like in his prime he was Kawhi Leonard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't trust.
Shit, but in his prime he was a top 25 player.
Yeah, he
like,
was. There's a lot. And in his prime, shit.
Okay, let me
Gallinari
ask
was
you
a top
this.
30 player?
Fuck that. No, he wasn't. Like, let me ask you this. Like, I personally think that Gordon Hayward at their peak was better than Paul George. Like, I think at the same time, I think he was better than Paul George. And I still think that now Paul George has definitely come back from that injury.
Paul George led his team to these conference finals twice.
Yeah, but so what? Gordon Hayward might do that in Charlotte.
Gordon Hayward probably did they even make the playoffs? What, they made the playoffs once with him?
Utah?
Yeah. With Gordon Hayward?
Utah was always in the playoffs.
With Gordon Hayward?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Yes.
I must have went out early because I don't remember. I don't never remember Gordon Hayward and the Utah Jazz making an impact in the playoffs.
They were doing the exact same thing Donovan Mitchell and the Utah Jazz are doing right now. They were one and done or a second round of bounce.
I give you that, which is nothing.
Let's go to
Atlanta.
Let's go to Detroit real fast.
Let's touch on that.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay. Because let me start by saying I do not like the draft pick of Okongwu there. I understand why they did it. Atlanta's in a push to make the playoffs, which is very evident by the moves that they've made, which I'm 100% on board for. And I guess if you can somehow become a playoff team and let Okongwu develop, then it makes sense. But if your goal is to make the playoffs, I don't know why you don't grab an Obi Toppin or one of these more ready NBA guys, or like a Devin Vassell or somebody like that. And I guess it's because they got a lot of those dudes. Atlanta's in a weird spot. They got a lot of 3-and-D motherfuckers, a lot of good dudes who could be 2s, could be 3s, and Herter, DeAndre Hunter, what's that other boy?
Cam Reddish.
Cam Reddish, and then of course, and now it don't seem like they know what the fuck they want to do with John Collins. But flip side, I love the addition of Bogdanovich. I think that's absolutely perfect because Bogdanovich can handle the ball. You can move Trae off. You can bring Rondo in to run 3-guard sets, even though I think they way overpay Rondo. But Rondo makes sense.
Only 2 years, 15 million.
I like what Atlanta's doing. Huh?
Only got 2 years, 15 million.
That's too much for Rondo.
$7
Rondo
million
plays
a year?
10 games a year.
$7 million?
Plays 10 games a year and then becomes playoff Rondo. When has Rondo been worth that?
$7 million. Hey, if you giving me
how
the veteran minimum is only $3. You giving? I'll take Rondo.
That's what his ass should've
I'll
got.
take Rondo for $7 million, especially when you just convinced me that Charlotte wasn't gonna do shit with their money, so they should give it to Gordon Hayward. What was Hawks gonna do?
But that's the thing,
They got so
but
much.
Rondo is crazy.
Yeah.
Gordon Hayward ain't crazy.
Bro,
Rondo's a
Yeah,
lunatic.
but you can cut that shit anytime. Like I said, 2 years, $15 million, like that costs you nothing. You can get rid of that easy. You can just waive that and stretch it, and that's $2 million
That's
a
true.
year. But
Which is what Charlotte did with Batum, by the way.
not yet. They're trying to trade him as part of the Gordon Hayward sign and trade. They're trying to find a third team that'll take him up if they can give him a pick or something. But yeah, man, I love everything that Atlanta did. Like, I even like the pick of Okongwu. The reason why I like the pick of Okongwu is because you did trade for Clint Capella, but how much do you trust Clint Capella? Like, you want somebody developing behind Clint Capella. If Okongwu develops like you think, then he can force you to trade Clint Capella. If not, like I always said, like Okongwu said that he wanted to be Bam. Like, every time you heard him talk, he said he looked up to Bam. He wanted to see Bam. Why is Bam Bam? Because Bam got to sit behind Hassan Whiteside, develop his game, develop different parts of his game, and he run and rush with a lot of expectations. That's why I think this is a perfect spot for him to go, because he doesn't have to immediately get in the game, and you can develop different skills where he can be a well-rounded player. And in about a year or two, then he'll be ready to take over. To go along with the fact with the guard depth that they have, now all you got to do is catch oops if you're in there with Rondo or Bogdanovich. Like, you're just
I agree with that.
You're just a skilled player to run. I love the fact that they went and got Bogdanovich, because why not? You know what I mean? Why not? You had all that cap. I don't know what Trae Young said to them last season when he got pissed off, but like before December.
He said, I want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, he said, if y'all don't get
Like,
some
I'm here to
talent
compete.
around me, then we're going to have problems next year. And they went and all that, taking contracts, flipping draft picks, trying to do that shit. He said, hey, y'all got to chill. And they went out there and got him. Like, I don't really love getting Gallinari. I think that's the one where they could have like kind of chilled out on, but I think they did that for the simple fact they didn't know that they could get Bogdanovich. Like, I believe they wanted Bogdanovich, but Gallinari was the insurance plan because Sacramento could have always matched Bogdanovich. Now you end up with Gallinari on a 2-year deal. 3rd year isn't guaranteed. You probably paid Gallinari when you didn't have to, because the problem with Gallinari is you got so many people that can play his position, like you just talked about. You got to find a way to get Hunter in the game because you traded up to get him. You got Cam Reddish in there. You know what I mean? Even playing the 4, you got John Collins. So Gallinari just seems like an extra piece. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded Gallinari like around the trade deadline. Because they really don't need Gallinari. That's the only piece that I think that didn't fit. Other than that, I love this Atlanta team. I think this Atlanta team could push to be in the playoffs. I actually think this Atlanta team, with the way they score, because one thing about Atlanta, if you watched Atlanta last year, they played hard. They just lacked talent. So now instead of playing DeAndre Bembry and all these other players, you're playing Bogdanovich, Rondo, all these different players that I think will help them out. And I think that they end up being a 4 or 5 seed. They're gonna be a tough matchup every week, and this is gonna this is gonna be about that argument. Like last year, I can argue that Trae didn't have any weapons around him. Now I need Trae to make that jump. If Trae don't make that big jump and he's just putting up empty stats, I have to agree with you, because now he has the weapons.
And the thing about Atlanta for me, last year they were. If you go back and watch their games, and of course I know you know this, but the average listener doesn't. They were up big in a lot of games. They just would blow the lead in the 4th quarter.
Comebacks too.
Or they yep. And so or they would get started late. Like, Atlanta was such a weird ass team, and to come in and bring in some veteran presence like they have, I like what Atlanta's doing. I can't say enough about that Bogdanovich. Like I that to me is absolutely a perfect signing for them, and I like everything about what they're doing.
I'm just glad that Bogdan got out of Sacramento. Because they were fucking with his confidence, putting him on the bench, bringing him back in. Like 2 years ago, he looked like he was ready to make that leap, and then Buddy came, and it's kind of just been messing with his whole game. He in the starting lineup, he's not. You got Fox in there taking the ball. Like, I think Bogdanovich is the perfect combo guard to go with Trae Young because, as you said, he can shoot the ball, he can score the ball, he can do everything that you need from him to do. And he's older. He's 27. You know what I mean? So he's a little bit more mature than the average. He has experience playing overseas. So I think that's going to be good for Trae to take some pressure off the ball because, I mean, Kevin, and I think it puts other players in their rightful position. Like Kevin Huerter, he shouldn't be starting. Kevin Huerter is like a Kyle Korver, come off the bench, spot up shooter. Cam Reddish, he probably isn't ready to start. DeAndre Hunter, he's a tough player that you can put in and kind of mix up your lineup. But this team is going to have depth. They're gonna give some teams some trouble.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's jump. I want to talk about the Pistons and the Knicks real quick, just because of what they did in the draft. Everybody's talking about the Pistons being like, what the fuck are the Pistons doing? And I get it. Because I can't say for sure that I totally understand what they're doing. At all. I talked about it last week. I don't fucking like Killian Hayes at all. I think he sucks. But, come to find out, Tyrese Halliburton was like, I'm not playing for Detroit, New York. Why? Like, I'm not playing for these teams. I want to get to another team. Yep. Which, kind of a head scratcher, seeing as the Kings are the Kings. But I get it. Good situation for him, I guess. But when you talk about the Pistons basically have 19 power forwards on their team, and Killian Hayes. I don't know what the plan is. And the thing I can't really understand, even if I wanted to defend Detroit, is why the fuck would you let Christian Wood just walk? Like, I understand that you're not going to bring him back because, again, he would have made 34 or whatever it is, power forwards on that team. But why would you not get something back for that? Like, he was a good asset, and you knew a team like Houston wanted to trade for him at the deadline last year. That I can't understand.
They got something back from him. I just don't. I gotta find it. But I don't
think they did.
It was a sign and trade. It ended up being a sign and trade deal as part of the.
Maybe I'm behind because I can't understand how some of a lot of these deals have become that they've become sign and trade somehow.
Yeah, I mean, like, all these deals are like really confusing. Because they've been flipped. And I feel like that it became a part of the Trevor Ariza trade. And that's how it became a sign and trade. Like the Trevor, like it's a sign and trade. I just have to find the trade. But still, they had to do a sign and trade. But I knew that they were going to get rid of Christian Woods. Because last year, Dwayne Casey doesn't like Christian Woods. I don't know why.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe it's because he don't play defense, but you could see it last year. Like, he would go out there and have like 2 20-10 games, and then he would just get benched, or he would replace somebody else. So Dwayne Casey. So if I'm Christian Woods and this is my opportunity, I 1,000% is not signing with Detroit unless you pay me. Like, you're gonna have to pay me above and beyond. And so
you got to pay me like a franchise player.
You got to pay me where it forces you to use me. So I love the fact that Christian Woods went there. He's a restricted free agent, so it wasn't a lot that they could get from him. They had to either match the deal, or they could like trade, do the sign and trade that they did to get a trade exception or whatever. But it wasn't a lot they can do from stopping him from signing except match the contract. That's why it was really interesting. What happened is he originally signed for like 3 years, $25 million, and then or like $27 million. He signed for 3 years, $27 million, and then Mason Plumlee signed for 3 years, $25 million. And then it was like, hold up, that's not done. And then it came back for 3 years, 41. And I think that put Houston in a situation where they had to sign him for more. Because shit, if you sign him for the same thing Mason Plumlee just got, they might match that shit. So you had to go above and beyond. But with Detroit, nah, man, I don't like anything they're doing, because even if you can justify the moves really don't make sense. Because Bowen, they had Bruce Brown. They had Bruce Brown, who was a point guard, two-way player, defender that played great for them last year as a pure point guard, defender, shooting guard. They sent him away for nothing. Like, even if you rebuild and you keep him, he was cheap. You send him away for nothing. Luke Kennard, who's one of the better shooters on that team and showed real talent last year.
They got nothing for him.
You send him away for nothing. You know what I mean? And then you go and you sign Mason Plumlee. who I like Mason Plumlee when he was at Portland. I think they feel like if you put the ball in Mason Plumlee's hand like when he was in Portland, he could contribute. I could kind of understand that. Then you go and get Jeremy.
Nah, see.
Go ahead.
But see, here's what I see them using Mason Plumlee for. At least my understanding was because he's that dude that since you.
Oh, hold on.
Here's my.
They did get something for him. When they traded Luke Kennard, it was a 3-team trade, but that's how they end up getting the 19th pick in the draft to get Sadiq Bey.
Which was Isaiah Stewart.
No, Sadiq Bey.
Oh, Sadiq Bey.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
they got Sadiq Bey, and I actually think that you're right. That's who they got for. They got the pick to get Isaiah Stewart, and that was part of that Ariza trade because Ariza came from Portland, and that pick ended up being the pick that got Isaiah Stewart. But it was all a part of that Ariza trade, all that convoluted shit. But go ahead.
See, I thought they brought in Mason Plumlee to be that kind of rim running dude that you can put in pick and roll with Killian Hayes since you draft a young point guard, and that makes sense to me because he's a dynamic playmaker, not dynamic, but he's a good passer. Like Mason Plumlee is a smart player, but I don't understand bringing in Jeremy Grant for that much money.
When you
with
still have Blake Griffin, so is Blake Griffin playing small forward? $20 million a year for
so
Jeremy.
Not only do you have Blake Griffin still, you've got Dwayne Dedmon who you just brought in. You got Jahlil Okafor who you just
waived him. So a couple of those you got.
Oh, did they? Okay.
So that was the weird part they were talking about because at one point they had 4 centers. They had Isaiah Stewart, Mason Plumlee, Tony Bradley, Dwayne Dedmon. They traded Tony Bradley to the 76ers to get Zaire Smith, and then they waived Dwayne Dedmon. So they traded for Dwayne Dedmon and they waived him and stretched him. But the funny part about that is it only saved them like $1 million. They did all that to save like $1 million.
Yeah, I guess I really have no idea what Detroit's plan is. My thought was that they basically plan to be bad until some of these contracts come off the books. It'll be interesting to see if we talked about the OKC New Orleans Golden State model of collecting assets and maybe being, trade me your bad contract, send me a first. We'll rebuild that way, but they ain't got no fucking assets to really trade. I mean, of course they're gonna get rid of Ariza, right? They'll probably if Blake Griffin.
Ariza.
Did they trade him already?
Yeah, Ariza's in.
Am I behind?
Yeah, you way behind. It was a bunch of shit. It's hard to keep up.
Clearly.
But Ariza's on Oklahoma City now somehow. I mean, so like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he got traded 3 times in 3 days.
He's like the most traded player in the NBA right now. So that's why I said that Ariza trade was funny because he never went anywhere. But now I think he ends up on Oklahoma City is somehow part of a 3-team trade. But what they end up getting after all the smoke is cleared, Killian Hayes, Isaiah Stewart, which people say that they reached on him. It's a standard big man center, and they already have Jahlil Okafor.
That they could have got somewhere else.
Probably could have got Isaiah Stewart in the second round. I don't know. He might turn out to be a good player. People said the same. They shit on Drummond when they got Drummond, and Drummond ended up working out for him to an extent. Before they pay,
and they got Thon Maker. I forgot about him.
They released. They renounced the draft rights to Thon Maker. I mean the rights to Thon Maker, so they don't have Thon Maker. I really don't know who on their team. I believe it's just.
I clearly don't either.
I think
I clearly don't either.
It's Derrick Rose, Killian Hayes, Rodney Magruder, because they got Rodney Magruder in that trade for Kennard. Jeremy Grant, Blake Griffin, Mason Plumlee, Jahlil Okafor, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. That's the team right now. That's the team that I see right now. So that's all the play. But I really don't know what they're doing. I mean, even the trades that they made to end up getting where they are to stretch players and shit like that, none of it really made any sense. I don't even know why they would do that. I don't like Killian Hayes, but like I said, if you're going to do what they did, then you have to take one of the most talented players. And from what everyone says, people love Killian Hayes. He's been working out in the offseason with Will Bynum. Will Bynum is, he's been in Detroit forever. Will Bynum said he's been working on his game. Maybe he got the inside track with Will Bynum, and they were saying that he's really developed his game to the point where you feel like he can be your starting point guard. If you put Killian Hayes working with someone like Will Bynum, who I think has probably had one of the best handles in the NBA when he was there. So if you can help him with his handles and then put him with a player like Derrick Rose, that veteran that you were saying that could teach him how to play and use some of his talents, maybe that'll work out. I even like the Sadiq Bey. I like Sadiq Bey. I think he can.
I like
come
the
in.
Sadiq Bey pick. Yep.
The problem with Bey is like a small forward or power forward. You know,
He's a tweener.
He's a tweener where you got Blake Griffin. Only thing that makes sense in this whole thing is they're gonna trade Blake Griffin. Maybe Blake Griffin has to show that he's healthy. Maybe they have to be able to pass a physical when this COVID stuff is over. Only thing that makes sense to me is they know that they can move Blake Griffin somewhere. Because if they move Blake Griffin, then you're probably going to get the assets to start a rebuild, and then all that shit end up making sense. As long as they have Blake Griffin on your roster, it doesn't make sense. Because even getting Jeremy Grant for $20 million a year is probably good for them, because you know Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee, they're going to compete, play hard, so you can teach the young guys, you know, how to compete and train and do all that shit that you talked about with Gordon Hayward. Like, I trust Jeremy Grant to do that because he worked his way up from wherever to get this contract.
Timeout. Somehow you trust Jeremy Grant to come in and do that, but Gordon Hayward, a proven veteran
Jeremy Grant
in his league.
Jeremy Grant didn't get drafted. He worked his way up from the slums. He went through probably the hardest path to get in the NBA.
Bro, Gordon Hayward went to Butler. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody expected this dude to come in and be Gordon Hayward.
He got drafted, and he was the player when he got drafted. Jeremy Grant has been popping from team to team for like the past 8 years. So he didn't care who he signed with. As long as he got $20 million, he would have signed with anybody. Like, Detroit is not a winning situation. He went there because of bag. And like you said, with Jeremy Grant contract, even if you look at his contract is excellent for Detroit. It's actually an asset. 3 years, $20 million. Like, you can get off that easy for a player like Jeremy Grant.
Easy.
So
yeah,
that's
easy.
why I said the only thing that makes sense to me is the fact that another thing that people miss out is this too, is that whenever you're doing these things, you also want to get these players at a salary where you can match salary if you were going to do a trade, right? So, like, if Detroit wanted to trade and do something, they could match a Jeremy Grant and a Mason Plumlee, which we think is overpayment, but they can match him up with a draft pick and be able to get a player, you know what I mean, to come in. That's kind of some of these teams' problems. Like you talked about with Kyle Kuzma last episode. Like, you can't trade Kyle Kuzma because his salary is not big enough to match with anybody. So even if the Lakers are going to send a first-round pick in Kyle Kuzma, what are you going to get? Kyle Kuzma only makes like $2 million.
Right. All right, man, let's get to some of the free agent stuff. I don't know enough about most of these motherfuckers, and these teams are too crazy for me to try to predict how it's going to work out. I like Cole Anthony to Orlando. I know you like that too. I like Devin Vassell to San Antonio. Everybody's saying that's like a Kawhi Leonard pick. I don't know that I see that. RJ Hampton to the Bucks is actually one that I think is a really sneaky pick if that hits.
You're late. He went to trade to Denver.
That's right. Fuck. That's right. I did know that actually, and I like that too. I like both of those spots for him. But other than that, man, let's get to free agency.
Before we get to that, like, I like what OKC Thunder did. They traded the 25th pick and the 28th pick in the draft to move up to 17 to get that kid Alexei. Can't pronounce his name.
Pukavetsky
or whatever.
Pukavetsky.
Like, that kid is like, if you're a rebuilding team and you ain't really got shit to lose, like, that's what you're supposed to go do, because that dude right there is like freaky. He's like 7'1", like a 7'6" wingspan, but he plays like Durant. Like, he dribbles, he shoots threes. Only thing is, he hadn't really went against any real competition yet, so you don't know what you got.
And he's skinny.
He's like Giannis skinny.
He looked like he just walked out the Holocaust or some shit skinny. Like, skinny.
But they say that this
third world skinny
confidence is like unmatched. Like, he's never been put in a game where he didn't go out there and think he's the best player and can put it up. Kind of like we talk about with Bobo. So if you're a team like OKC, you got all these future assets and you don't give a shit. I love the fact that, and this is another thing where I'm gonna kind of agree with you when I like bringing veterans in. They brought this kid in, then they trade for Al Horford, because Why not? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you trade for Al Horford. He has 3 years, $30 million. But Al Horford probably end up in your front office one day because he is the type of person to develop. So you take a risk on this kid, and then you bring in somebody like Al Horford for him to sit behind and learn to play the game. I love what OKC did there. I don't know if this shit'll work, but if it does, this could be like Giannis level when the Bucks took Giannis and it took 3 years for him to get there. Like this with that kid, he has that type of talent because his measurables are insane.
They gonna have to make a believer out of me. It's too many foreign dudes in this draft for me to get excited about any of them because I just don't know. Like the thing about Giannis, hell, even Doncic or any of those dudes. Doncic's a different situation. He was playing in a real league, but Giannis. Who was it? Who else was it? Hell, you even look like a RJ Hampton. Like these dudes really have not been playing competition in years. So I just don't know what to make of them.
The difference is with him and these other players is it kind of doesn't fucking matter because you don't find a dude that's 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan that can move like him. Like it's worse. It's like when they go and get Taco and he gets a college scholarship, even if it's to Central Florida. Like he only been playing for 2 years, but you do it just because you don't find dudes that's coordinated. So if you tell me you find a dude that can dribble, run, and shoot threes at 7'1", yeah, I gamble on that every day of the week.
I mean, yeah, especially when you got 17 fucking draft picks. Who cares? All right, man, let's get to free agency. So I want to start in LA real quick. I really like everything that the Lakers have done. Although, like, I like the Harrell. I like bringing in Harrell, and I like bringing in Dennis Schroeder. So those were the top two bench scoring dudes in the league last year to come in and solidify you on the bench. The only thing that I kind of was wondering, if you're the Lakers and you sign Harrell and Marc Gasol, a part of me says I'd rather have Serge Ibaka than both of them.
Well, they couldn't get him.
Like if he was,
I mean, they tried.
Could they not?
Yeah, they tried. I'm not saying that like they couldn't afford him. I'm saying that he chose the Clippers. Like he was in the
I wasn't sure if that situation was.
Yeah, he was in the running before they went with Marc Gasol. Serge Ibaka was in the running to go to the Lakers.
But I other than that, I like everything about that. Now here's the caveat. If Marc Gasol looks like Marc Gasol did in the bubble, fuck, that sucks. But you could see that he's still there defensively. He is not there offensively, at least if you go. But, you kind of have to take the bubble, I think, with a grain of salt.
So when they first signed, it's like what most veteran teams do after they win a championship. You can get people for cheap, they come in. I think they might have took for granted what they had, though. I mean, with the flash of the players that they had, like Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, like you may not love them, but what they did defensively when it was needed, the way that they were able to defend the rim, the way Dwight Howard can come in there and dominate, even for a short stretch of rebounding and defending the rim, I thought that was big for them. To lose both of those players, I think, and to replace them with Marc Gasol, who's 1,000% on his last leg. He can stretch the floor, shoot threes, and do all that stuff. But defensively, he's not there at all. Because I know one of the big things that gave Miami problems was the fact that they had like players like that on the back end early. And then, they took him out. Then Anthony Davis was there. But that size, that size helped him in a lot of matchups.
No doubt about that. I agree. But the thing is, for like, you play Miami twice a year if you're the Lakers. Like,
no. I shouldn't have said Miami because I believe that McGee and them helped them earlier, like against, I would say, OKC, and because he didn't play against Houston
or Denver. Like they couldn't play McGee damn near the whole playoffs.
No, but Dwight Howard played against somebody. I guess it was against Denver or somebody early. Portland.
Dwight couldn't play against. It was against Houston because it was against Portland because Dwight Howard almost couldn't play for 2 rounds. Couldn't play against Houston. McGee couldn't play at all. But Denver ran both them motherfuckers right off the court. They're like, nope, you gonna play them, we gonna kill you. And you and I talked about that, like, because Dwight Howard has no idea how to fucking defend a 3-point shot to save his life.
But just the fact that they could put Dwight Howard in there against a Jokic, and that's kind of my problem, is that if the Lakers match up with Denver today, right? who defends Jokic? Because Montrezl Harrell can't. He already proved that. That was the whole. That's a lot of the reason why Denver beat the Clippers was because Jokic just dominated Harrell. Like, Harrell was a problem defensively in that matchup. Like, they kept going to that. Then you put Marc Gasol out there who's on his last leg. I love getting Wesley Matthews. I love getting
for sure.
I love them re-sign because I was gonna knock them if they didn't re-sign KCP because KCP was big. So the fact that they got KCP, Wesley Matthews, I like Dennis Schroeder.
Who's an upgrade over Danny?
Yeah,
Danny Green.
Upgrade. Like, I take Wesley Matthews over Danny Green. I love KCP. I don't like Schroeder replacing Rondo. What he gives you scoring is legit, but they didn't need that. They needed a defensive presence. I don't know if Schroeder can do that. But I have to see how Schroeder fit. Like, I'm not totally out on Schroeder, but I don't love the Schroeder thing. But the back end of Marc Gasol and Montrezl Harrell, I'm not as big on that as everybody else.
Yeah, but the thing is, the difference to me is the Lakers have AD.
Yeah. As long as
nothing,
as long as LeBron and AD
nothing else
is healthy, we saw that. I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, so like you don't really need anybody to guard Jokic because you have AD. The thing that the Lakers struggled with last year, and the reason that I think Harrell, Schroeder, and Gasol make sense is because now you bring in three guys that can give LeBron a fucking break. Like, you could bring in three, like, you don't have to worry about Schroeder. And he can come in, be a spark on offense. You already know him and Harrell can run pick and roll on a second team all day long and be fine. Mark can come in, he can spell for a second. He's a good defensive player. He's not going to, like, he at this point is certainly not as athletic as Dwight Howard, never has been. But I think you'll get some of that defensive replacement there. I still think the Lakers need something, but as I look around the West, dude,
Clippers.
I
love what the Clippers did. Clippers added.
I like it. I don't know that they're better than the Lakers until they get a real fucking guard. I don't think I like the Clippers very much.
You said it. I mean, they're still working that.
Luke Kennard, I think, was a great signing for them.
That's what I'm about to say. You add Luke Kennard because people don't know Luke Kennard. Like, Luke Kennard has developed his game where he's not a Shamet where he's just a spot shooter. Like, Luke Kennard can get his own shot.
He's playmaker.
He's smart. He's a playmaker. He played for Duke. You know, we've seen J.J. Redick, how those players are. I love the acquisition of Luke Kennard. I think Serge Ibaka is such a big upgrade over Montrezl Harrell.
I agree.
Just because of size, length, three-point shooting. Like, there's so many different things that he brings to the table that I like about him. You are right. I do think that they need to get a point guard in there, but I don't think that they're done. I keep hearing them linked to Terry Rozier, which I think that Charlotte's going to have to move off of one of those guards. It's not going to be Graham because he's cheap. They just have to find a way to get Rozier, even if you switch out Lou Williams for Rozier. I like Rozier a lot better on that team than I do Lou Williams, for the fact that I know Rozier will compete on defense. You know what I mean? And it's a lot easier to get rid of a Lou, bring Rozier into the starting lineup so he can control the ball, rather than trying to get a starting point guard. Then you'll just be getting a bench point guard, you know what I mean, to replace Lou Williams. But I remember what Rozier did in those playoffs when Kemba Walker was out. Well, not Kemba, when Kyrie Irving was out. Like, Rozier can be a starting point guard. If they can make that trade to get Rozier, I think that'll be big. The problem is, I don't fucking know what assets they have apart from Lou Williams.
Right.
So if they could get him for like a Lou Williams or something, but it sounds like Charlotte is open to trading Rozier. They might have to wait for all this shit to happen with get sorted out with Gordon Hayward. But I definitely think they have to move. You just spent your number 4 pick on LaMelo Ball. You can't have Rozier there, right? Yeah. And you just went and got Gordon Hayward. Like, that's too many people with the ball in their hands. You got Graham. I think what ended up happening is you end up with LaMelo Ball, Devontae Graham, and Gordon Hayward, probably with P.J. Washington and
Miles Bridges.
No, I don't think Miles ended up starting. I think it ended up being P.J.
I guess he can.
P.J. Washington and probably Cody Zeller or somebody.
Yeah.
Because I think didn't they bench Miles Bridges last year? I think they did.
They did.
Yeah.
They did. Other than that, man, I feel like I'm missing something. Listen, Miami re-signed Bam Adebayo to a 5-year extension, which a lot of people thought they were kind of hedging for 2021, obviously, to get Giannis. He and Giannis share the same agent, and there was no way that Adebayo was, especially after fucking hurt his shoulder in playoffs, no way he was going to play on a 1-year deal. I love that for the Heat. I think that Giannis or not, the Heat have the pieces in place to build. I never saw the Heat being a contender, so I was kind of shocked there. But I still think the Heat. I still think highly of them as an organization. They're going to be flexible with Giannis or not going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, Pat Riley, he did a tour before. He said every time somebody asked him, he pretty much said, our plan is to run it back. Like, we're not going to make any big splashes. We got plans. Like, they had to have backup plans in case, Gordon didn't want to take the one-year deal. Jay or, those players didn't want to take the one-year deals. But he pretty much said if it was up to him, he would just run it back with the same squad, keep cap flexibility. The reports came out, Giannis and Bam share the same ages as you said, but it said that Giannis would have been more disappointed if they didn't give Bam his money and made him play on a one-year deal as opposed to giving him his money and just figuring out how to trade for him. So that was never going to hold him up. As we've seen, like, you can easily, if Giannis says he wants to go there, they'll find a way to make a sign and trade for him. They didn't have enough cap room to get Jimmy Butler. In some way, they got Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they know how to do that. But I like what Miami did. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year. I think they're still going to be around a 4th or 5th seed. They probably won't make the playoff run. But I love Jay Crowder didn't want to sign the one-year option. He wanted to get his money. He went to the Suns. So you got Avery Bradley, which I love.
Well, apparently they only wanted to sign Crowder to a one-year deal so that they could keep the cap flexibility for Giannis. And he was like, "Nah, fuck."
I mean,
that.
everybody knew. I mean, it's been what Pat said in the newspaper. There was no. Everyone knew what was going on. Goran got the 2-year contract, second-year team option. They gave him $14 million. Who was the other one? Everybody pretty much got 1-year contracts with an option year, and it's a team option. Myers, Leonard, they all got the same thing. You know what I mean? So all that cap's going to fall off the books. But Jay Crowder, I mean, I understand him going to get his money. You go get your 3 years because you never know what's going to happen. But replacing him with Mo Harkless and Avery Bradley, I mean, I love that. I mean, you get 2 for the price of 1 of what you would have got with Jay Crowder. And I don't even think they need Jay Crowder because bringing in Mo Harkless, I think Mo Harkless is a better version of Jay Crowder. So you add Avery Bradley on top of that with the Jay Crowder money. I like that. I think Miami's going to be better defensively. And I love Precious. Precious, how you pronounce it?
Achawa.
I love Precious Achawa, man. At first, I wanted Maxey when it came to that pick, so I was disappointed. But then the more I started looking at Precious, like Precious jumped on the scene when Wiseman got hurt, and he averaged 20 and 10. But the secret thing is Duke can shoot threes. He shoots like 36% from the three-point line. At his size, to go with Bam, I think he's going to make an immediate impact. But for the future, I can see Precious and Bam, that combination, even if you don't get Giannis. If he develops, I think Precious and Bam could be a nightmare. Defensively, athleticism. Like, I really like Precious on that team.
Other than that, man, that's pretty much what I got. I might have missed someone, but I did want to see. Did you see any of the new jerseys that got released that Nike's doing this year?
I seen a couple. I'm just not into it. I don't really give a shit about the jerseys. I know that they doing some more CD jerseys. This is a money grab. They trying to find these new streams of revenue.
Some of these old school ones are pretty dope. Like, I actually really like the Memphis Grizzlies Isaac Hayes jerseys. I really like the Nets. They went old school. They went back to like the 80s or 90s look. And there was one other one. I can't remember which one. There was another one that I thought was really dope. I think it was like Philadelphia or something. But Chicago had a dope one. Their city one was kind of cool. So.
What do you think about?
Other than that, man,
I did want to touch on with the Pelicans. We talked a little bit about them, but when they took Kira Lewis, I was like, why the fuck did they take Kira? They got all those fucking guards, and then turns out they don't. They're like all those guards are like free agents, like Etwan Moore, Frank Jackson, all those dudes are guards. They're gone. So taking Kira Lewis is big, but I'm excited to see this team because if this iteration of the team is competitive at all, fucking New Orleans is going to be dangerous because they're going to end up starting. I think NAW will start. I think they're going to push him in the starting lineup because they spent the mid-round first on him. So he's supposed to be a kind of clone of Drew. He has a lot of the same things that Drew Holiday had. So you put Lonzo, just gave the Supermax to Brandon Ingram. Got Zion. They brought in Steven Adams and gave him a 2-year extension. Then you bring a player like Kira off the bench. I like this New Orleans team. I really like the addition of Steven Adams. He's a major upgrade over Derek Favors. So if Zion can stay healthy,
without question.
Yeah, so Zion can stay healthy, and I like the fact that you said that it's Lonzo's last year of his contract. But I think that Stan Van Gundy likes Lonzo. He said when he got there, he said his priority is to put the ball in Lonzo's hands. And that's what he did by getting rid of Drew and getting all those other guards they were using. He said he wants to build Lonzo's confidence up, and he wants to put the ball in Lonzo's hands. What he did with Jameer Nelson was incredible. If he can do just a fraction of that with Lonzo, I think that New Orleans team to be dangerous. I think you're going to see Lonzo break out. And to go with LeVar, I don't know what kind of terms LeVar and Lonzo's on. You know, listening to LeVar kind of fucked him in L.A., fucked up his foot, fucked up his business. He went and got a real agent. He went and got a real manager. So LeVar can talk all that. I don't know if Lonzo's trying to go to Charlotte, though.
Hell, and even LaMelo, he's like, no, I got my own representation. No. So, no, you're right on that. And honestly, man, you know, like I said, I don't think Lonzo is ever going to live up to that number 2 draft pick. But you and I both, you know, have been saying Lonzo's a damn good NBA player. That if he got cut today, there would be 29 other teams lined up to sign him.
I think if he enters free agency, there'll be a good group of players willing to pay him. I mean, to sign him.
How old is Lonzo?
He's not that old. This is just
like 22.
This just be his 4th year. I mean, this is his 4th year. He'll be a restricted free agent next year.
Lonzo's 23 years old. A 23-year-old point guard. I mean, yeah. Lonzo hasn't even scratched the surface of how good he can be. The more he gets away from his dad, the more, you know, that New Orleans starts to gel. And if New Orleans can be, or excuse me, if Zion can stay healthy, you have the number one. I mean, you know, a number 1 and number 2 pick as the foundation of your franchise to go along with, you know, the other guys that they brought in. So I like what they're doing with Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, he has the perfect coach because he wants to shoot threes and run and get layups, and that's Van Gundy's philosophy: shoot threes and get layups.
And if you're New Orleans and you understand that, like, all right, our foundation is Zion, Ingram, and Lonzo. Everyone else is movable. You know, everything else is fluid. I mean, New Orleans could be a juggernaut for a while.
To be fair, they really ain't got shit else to move. They've already moved them. I mean,
I don't know about that.
They got
you look at
Jackson Hayes, JJ Redick. JJ Redick's the only asset, which I expect him to be moved at some point, probably mid-season for a pick. But you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, JJ Redick, Steven Adams, but they just signed him to a 2-year extension. That's going to make him harder to move, so you got to be locked in with him because now he's on a 4-year deal now, a 3-year deal. That's it, right? And then Kira Lewis. I mean, they don't really have a lot of people on that bench. That's why I said the whole bench fell off.
They just fleeced Milwaukee. I mean, New Orleans is gonna be fine. They got 1 million draft picks. They got a ton of young talent. New Orleans. I can't. That's gonna be a league pass team for me for sure.
I forgot. What do you think about what Milwaukee did? You know that Bogdanovich trade fell through. We were all talking about the Drew trade. Once the tampering stuff came, I think that shit got interesting. Did Bogdanovich get more? He got way more, right, than they were gonna do with that. He
got more with Atlanta, but apparently it all was because of the Bucks not shutting the fuck up. Like, they basically were like, yeah, we got him. And then, of course, if you're a competitor like the Atlanta Hawks, you're like, yo, how do they got this dude and we're not allowed to trade? How do they have him signed 4 days before we're allowed to sign him? Like, how?
Then you leak. So, you say something to the agent like, oh, we'd have gave him 70, but that contract ain't signed. You can't even sign off receipt sheet yet. And now Bogdanovich is like, I never agreed to that. You know?
Played themselves right out of.
I like what they did though. I mean, I like the acquisition of DJ Augustine. I mean, if you can't get Bogdanovich, getting DJ Augustine for cheap, I think that was a great acquisition. They got somebody else too. You got Drew, you got DJ Augustine. I thought they got one more player. I can't remember, but I really love the fact that they got DJ Augustine because DJ Augustine has shown that he can be clutch. He can handle the ball. He can shoot the three.
Unless it's the playoffs. Unless it's game 1 of the playoffs. That's the only good game he'll give you, then he done.
Hey, that might be all you need. But
yeah,
I don't know that. As I said before, man, I said this when they had Bogdanovich. So take out Bogdanovich, and I really don't know how much better this Bucks team has gotten. And Giannis Still has not signed that Supermax. It's offered. It's on the table. He asked to the 21st to sign it. Every day that goes by that he doesn't sign it would make me more nervous. I mean, but because you see these other players signed it. Yeah, what Tatum signed. Tatum, Bam, De'Aaron
Tatum
Fox,
signed, Mitchell signed.
Mitchell, all these people signed these. Those are extensions, but I mean, he got that Supermax on the table. You did the Drew Holiday the trade. I mean, everybody said they would have talked to you about it. If that's the case, why he ain't signed that Supermax yet?
And meanwhile, you got teams like Miami and Dallas who are apparently the favorite, who just kind of chilled. They didn't really make too many waves.
Dallas kind of cleared more cap room.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Got off that DeLone Wright contract, got off some money. You know what I mean?
So just watch what Dallas does. Like we know how much the Luka Doncic thing is. He likes Luka Doncic,
bro.
So we'll see. That'll be an interesting development.
We missed one of the biggest things. Philadelphia, Daryl Morey.
Oh, fuck! That is right.
Morey, man,
we slipped.
Yeah, Morey. That should have. Daryl Morey, like when he went to the Sixers, the one thing that I was 1,000% sure about, they're gonna get shooters. Like I didn't have, like I knew they were gonna get shooters. The question was gonna be, who would you have to give up, being a Joel, to get shooters? And they didn't even give up Tobias. That team is legit now. They kept Tobias. And they got off that Al Horford contract. They had to give up a future first-round pick, but they got off that Al Horford contract, and they ended up getting some shooters around them, man. They got Seth Curry. They got who was the other one? They didn't get Shaman. They got I gotta look. Because they got like three.
Well, I know they drafted Isaiah Joe out of Arkansas.
Yeah, they got Isaiah Joe.
Who's a flamethrower.
Yeah, he's a shooter, but they got somebody else. I'm just trying to find the trade. Let me see. I can't even fucking find it.
And then, what it looks like they've done is basically gone back to when they were successful, like bringing in.
It's a trade that I'm missing.
People that's gonna bringing in people that's gonna clog the paint made no sense in the beginning. So the natural thing is Ben doesn't have to be a shooter if you can surround him and Joel with shooters. I agree with you. I like what they've done. I don't see a reason why they shouldn't be much improved over what they were last year. Danny Green, the other shooter.
Yeah, that's the other shooter. Danny Green. Yeah, they traded for Danny Green. They got Isaiah Joe, which is just a young rookie who's probably gonna have to play because their bench is almost depleted. You know what I mean? They got Tony.
Isaiah Joe's a big dude too. He can either play the point guard or shooting guard position. He's 6'5". He's like 190 pounds. Like he's a dude that has some size and can straight up shoot the ball. He's gonna play.
And they still got Matisse Thybulle. They still got Shake Milton.
Thybulle.
You know what I mean? You got Seth Curry there now, who's a 40% 3-point shooter. That's probably the big addition. You get Danny Green in there. They did. I like what Daryl Morey did, but the biggest thing was getting off that Al Horford contract and then getting shooters around them. So I love everything that the Sixers did, man. I mean, if they can get space, I still think I don't like Shake. Oh, Tyrese Maxey. That was the other one because I didn't like Shake. And then you draft Tyrese Maxey. So you got Tyrese Maxey as a playmaker guy. He can shoot the ball also. Danny Green, Seth Curry. I like what the Sixers did, man. Sixers could be dangerous next year.
And they brought in Dwight Howard.
Dwight Howard off the bench. You know Joel Embiid is going to miss time for you. So you bring in Dwight Howard out there to replace, which is a good replacement for Al Horford. You bring in a minimum guy that can get in there, rebound, dunk, set some screens. Somebody that's actually willing to play down low and in the paint. I hope Doc Rivers can get Joel Embiid to play in the paint. Like he has like a 90% like offensive rating or some shit in the paint. But he wants to shoot threes. If you could just get him in the paint to be dominant in the paint and put some shooters around him to open it up, it just seems so easy. You know what I mean? It just seems so simple. Like he's almost unstoppable down there, but he just doesn't want to take the beating. You just get him from outside the three-point line in the paint. I think you can be on to something.
That's what I got, man. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, that's it, man. That's it. That's all.
That's it. That's all, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.